3 months had passed since the ethereals first arrived at Earth. The world had changed in ways Jake Morrison never imagined possible. Every news channel, every government meeting, every conversation seemed to focus on one thing: the gift of Ascension. Jake stood in the Nevada desert, watching the massive crystalline structure rise from the sand. The ethereals had built it in just 2 weeks, working day and night with technology that made human engineering look primitive. The structure was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It reached 300 feet into the sky, its surface shifting between colors that had no names. "Commander Morrison, the world leaders are arriving," said Captain Roy Bennett, walking up beside him. Roy was a tough military man with gray hair and suspicious eyes. Unlike most people, he hadn't fallen under the ethereal's peaceful spell. "How many volunteers do we have for today's demonstration?" Jake asked. 50, Roy replied grimly. Including the president's own daughter. Jake felt sick. President Helen Carter had arrived that morning with representatives from every major nation. They all wanted to see the ethereals prove their gift was real. The early volunteers had been impressive enough. People who went through the small-scale transformations came back different. They seemed peaceful, wise, and claimed to have experience. Something beyond human understanding. Dr. Kevin Murphy approached them, carrying a tablet full of energy readings. Kevin was a young physicist who had been studying the ethereal's technology. His usually neat appearance had become disheveled over the past weeks. "The energy patterns are off the charts," Kevin said, his voice shaking. "This structure is drawing power from something I can't identify. It's like it's tapping into the fabric of space itself." "Is it dangerous?" Jake asked. Kevin hesitated. "I honestly don't know. The readings don't match anything in our physics textbooks, but there's something else. The energy signature keeps changing, like it's adapting to something." Lieutenant Lisa Park joined their group. She was a military observer who had been watching the early volunteers. Lisa was young but sharp, with an eye for details others miss. "Sir, we need to talk about the volunteers from the first demonstrations," she said quietly. "What about them?" Jake asked. "They're not the same people anymore," Lisa whispered. "I've been monitoring them for weeks. They don't eat much, they don't sleep normally, and they've lost interest in everything they used to care about." Roy Bennett frowned. "What do you mean?" Take Maria Santos. She was a teacher who loved her students. After the transformation, she quit her job. Says teaching individual minds is pointless when she could be part of the greater consciousness. Her husband is worried sick, but she acts like he's a stranger. Jake felt the cold knot in his stomach grow tighter. "Have you reported this to the scientific team?" "I tried," Lisa said. "But Dr. Foster and the others are too excited about the alien technology to listen. They think these changes are natural parts of evolution." The group fell silent as they watched the ethereals preparing for the demonstration. Luminous, radiant, and serene, moved around the crystalline structure, their glowing forms making adjustments to devices that looked like they were made of living light. President Carter walked over to them, her face showing both excitement and worry. "Commander Morrison, are you certain this is safe? My daughter insists on being part of the demonstration." Jake wanted to tell her to stop everything, to take her daughter and run, but he had no proof that anything was wrong. The early volunteers seemed happy, even if they were different. "Madam President, I have concerns, but the ethereals have been nothing but peaceful." "The whole world is watching," she said. "If this gift is real, it could solve every problem humanity has ever faced. No more war, no more suffering, no more death." "And if it's not what they claim?" Roy asked quietly. The president looked at him sharply. "Then we'll deal with that when the time comes. But we can't pass up this opportunity without at least trying to understand it." The demonstration began at noon. The 50 volunteers walked toward the crystalline structure, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and fear. Jake recognized several of them. Scientists, teachers, artists, and ordinary people who believed they were about to become something greater, luminous, stood before the crowd of world leaders and media. Today, you will witness the next step in human evolution. These brave souls will be the first to join the cosmic community of enlightened beings. The volunteers entered the structure through an opening that appeared in its base. Inside, Jake could see a chamber filled with swirling energy. The volunteers stood in a circle, holding hands as the ethereals had instructed. The process is simple, Radiant explained. We will lift their consciousness from physical matter and integrate it with the universal network. They will retain their memories and personalities, but will be free from the limits of flesh. The structure began to glow brighter. The volunteers inside seemed to become transparent, their bodies fading as they transformed into beings of pure light. The watching crowd gasped in amazement as the 50 people dissolved into glowing energy. Where did they go? President Carter asked, her voice tight with worry. They are here, Serene replied, gesturing to the structure. Their consciousness now exists within the network. They are experiencing the universe as never before. But Jake noticed something the others missed. His communication device, enhanced with alien technology for the diplomatic mission, was picking up signals from the structure. He listened carefully through his earpiece, and what he heard made his blood run cold. Faint voices, human voices, were coming from the crystalline structure. They weren't peaceful or enlightened. They were screaming. "Help me," one voice whispered. "I can't move. I can't think clearly. What did they do to us?" "I want to go home," another voice cried. "Please, somebody help us get out of here." Jake's hand shook as he adjusted his earpiece. The voices were definitely human, and they were terrified. But when he looked at the structure, all he could see was peaceful light. "Commander Morrison, is something wrong?" Dr. Foster asked. She had been watching the demonstration with wonder. But now she noticed Jake's expression. "I'm picking up transmissions," Jake said quietly, "from inside the structure." "What kind of transmissions?" Roy asked, moving closer. "Human voices." "And they don't sound enlightened. They sound trapped." "Doctor," Foster frowned. "That's impossible." The ethereals explained that the consciousness integration process might cause some initial confusion, but it's temporary. "Listen for yourself," Jake said, offering her his earpiece. But before she could take it, Luminous appeared beside them. "Is there a problem, Commander Morrison?" Jake looked into the alien's diamond-bright eyes. "I'm receiving some unusual signals from the structure, human voices that sound distress." Luminous's expression didn't change. "The transition to higher. Consciousness can be overwhelming at first. Your people are experiencing the universe in ways they never imagined. Some find it frightening initially." "They're asking for help," Jake said. "They want to come home." "Home is a concept that no longer applies to them," Luminous replied. "They are part of something greater now. The confusion will pass." The demonstration continued for another hour. The structure pulsed with energy, and the ethereals explained that the volunteers were being integrated into the cosmic network. But Jake kept listening to the voices, and they never stopped sounding afraid. As the sun began to set, the world leaders prepared to leave. Most of them seemed convinced that they had witnessed humanity's greatest moment. Plans were already being made for larger demonstrations, for cities full of people to undergo the ascension process. But Jake pulled Roy, Kevin, and Lisa aside as the crowd dispersed. "Something is very wrong here," he said quietly. "Those voices aren't going away. If anything, they're getting more desperate." Roy nodded grimly. "I've been thinking the same thing. The early volunteers aren't acting like evolved humans. They're acting like they've been programmed." "What do you think is really happening?" Lisa asked. Jake looked back at the crystalline structure, still glowing in the desert twilight. "I think the ethereals are lying to us. I think they're not freeing human consciousness. I think they're stealing it." The group stood in silence, watching the alien structure pulse with the energy of 50 human minds. Somewhere inside that beautiful, terrible device, their fellow humans were trapped, calling for help that might never come. "We need to investigate this further," Jake said, "but we need to be careful. If I'm right, We're dealing with something far more dangerous than we realize. As they walked back to their vehicles, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The Ethereals had said their gift had a time limit, but Jake was beginning to think the real countdown was how long humanity had before it was too late to resist. The first thing Jake Morrison noticed about the aliens was how beautiful they were. Standing 6 feet tall with skin that seemed to glow like moonlight, they moved with a grace that made humans look clumsy. Their faces were long and narrow, with large eyes that sparkled like diamonds. When they spoke, their voices sounded like music. Jake stood on the bridge of the space station New Horizon, watching the alien ship approach Earth, as the commander of the diplomatic team he had trained for this moment his whole life. But nothing could have prepared him for how peaceful they seemed. "Commander Morrison, they're requesting permission to board," said Lieutenant Pete Collins from the communications station. His voice shook slightly. Jake didn't blame him. Everyone was nervous. "Grant them permission," Jake replied, straightening his uniform, "and send word to Earth. History is about to be made." The alien ship was unlike anything humans had ever built. It looked more like a giant crystal than a spacecraft, with smooth surfaces that reflected light in impossible ways. As it docked with the station, Jake felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. The aliens were broadcasting something, he realized. Some kind of peaceful energy that made everyone feel relaxed. Dr. Amanda Foster joined Jake at the observation window. She was the lead scientist on the team, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and graying hair. "The readings are incredible," she whispered. "Their ship is putting out energy patterns I've never seen before. It's like they're broadcasting harmony itself. Is it safe?" Jake asked. Amanda nodded slowly. "As far as I can tell, my instruments show no harmful radiation. Whatever they're doing, it seems designed to make us comfortable." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 3 aliens stepped through, their movements so smooth they seemed to float. The one in front was taller than the others with skin that glowed brighter. When it spoke, Jake felt the words in his mind as much as he heard them. "Greetings, children of Earth," the alien said. "We are the Ethereals. We have traveled far to meet you." Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Welcome to New Horizon Station. I'm Commander Jake Morrison, representing Earth's government." The alien's face showed something that might have been a smile. "We know of you, Jake Morrison. We have watched your species for many cycles. You have grown much since we first observed you." "You've been watching us?" Dr. Foster asked, moving closer. "For how long?" "By your measure, centuries," the alien replied. "We watch all young species as they take their first steps into the greater universe. It is our way." The alien gestured to its companions. "I am called Luminous by your tongue. These are my companions, Radiant and Serene. We come with a gift for humanity." Jake felt a chill despite the warm feeling the aliens projected. "What kind of gift?" Luminous raised one long, graceful hand. Above it, light began to form shapes and pictures. Jake watched in amazement as the light showed images of planets, stars, and beings he couldn't identify. "We offer you ascension," Luminous said, "the next step in your evolution. A chance to join the cosmic community of enlightened beings." The light pictures showed humans transforming, becoming beings of pure energy and light. They looked peaceful, happy, free from the struggles of physical existence. "What does that mean exactly?" Jake asked. "Your species is trapped in flesh," Luminous explained. "Bound by physical limits, by pain, by death. We offer freedom from these chains. The chance to exist as pure consciousness connected to all life in the universe." Dr. Foster stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "How? Is this possible? What technology do you use?" "Technology is too simple a word," Radiant spoke for the first time, her voice like wind chimes. "We use the fundamental forces of consciousness itself, the energy that makes you think, feel, and dream." We can lift that energy from its prison of flesh and set it free. Jake felt uneasy. Something about the way they talked about human bodies as prisons bothered him. And you've done this for other species? Many, Serene answered. Across the galaxy, we have helped thousands of worlds take this final step. Each species joins our great network of minds, sharing knowledge and experience across the stars. The three aliens moved closer, and Jake noticed that his crew seemed mesmerized by them. Even Dr. Foster's usually skeptical expression had softened. We do not force this gift, Luminous said. Each being must choose freely. But we have found that once a species understands what we offer, they embrace it gladly. What would happen to Earth? Jake asked. To our planet, our civilization? Earth would remain, Luminous replied. But its children would be free to explore the universe without the weight of physical form. You would retain your memories, your personality, your connections to others, but you would be part of something greater. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was listening with expressions of wonder. Even the usually tough Marines seemed enchanted by the aliens' presence. We would like to demonstrate our gift, Radiant said, to show your people what we offer. Would some of your crew volunteer? For a small transformation? Dr. Foster raised her hand immediately. I'll volunteer, she said, her voice dreamy. Jake grabbed her arm. Amanda, wait. We need to think about this. She looked at him with surprise. Jake, this is the greatest opportunity in human history. They're offering us evolution itself. No, but we need to be careful. We don't know enough about them yet. Luminous watched this exchange with interest. Your caution is wise, Jake Morrison. We do not ask for immediate trust. Perhaps we might visit your world, speak to your leaders, show them what we offer. Jake nodded slowly. I'll need to contact Earth first. This is too big a decision for one person to make. Of course, Luminous agreed. We will wait in orbit while you prepare, but do not wait too long. Our gift has a time limit. The cosmic energies required for mass ascension only align occasionally. The three aliens turned to leave, but Luminous paused at the airlock. Jake Morrison, you have the burden of speaking for your species. Remember that evolution cannot be stopped. It can only be guided. We offer guidance. Without us, your species will face the same fate as all others who refuse to grow. What fate is that? Jake asked. Extinction, Luminous replied simply. The universe is vast and dangerous. Only those who transcend physical existence can survive what is coming. After the aliens left, Jake stood alone on the bridge. His crew was buzzing with excitement, talking about the incredible opportunity they'd been offered. But Jake felt a cold knot in his stomach. He activated the communication system to Earth. This is Commander Morrison to Earth Control. The visitors are gone for now, but they'll be back. We need to talk to every government, every leader, every scientist on the planet. They're offering to transform humanity itself. He paused, looking out at the alien ship floating silently in space. And I think we need to be very careful about accepting gifts from beings who call our bodies prisons. The message would reach Earth in minutes. Soon, the entire world would know that humanity had been offered the chance to evolve beyond physical existence. The question was whether it was really evolution or something else entirely. Jake had a feeling they were about to find out whether they wanted to or not. The aliens had said their gift had a time limit, but Jake wondered if it was really a gift at all, or if it was something much more dangerous disguised as salvation. The beautiful, peaceful ethereals were waiting patiently in orbit, but Jake Morrison was beginning to think that sometimes the most dangerous predators were the ones that looked like angels. The new horizon approached Earth after the longest 3 weeks of Jake Morrison's life. He stood on the bridge, watching his home planet grow larger on the screen. The blue and green world looked so peaceful. Its people had no idea that war was coming. Captain, we are receiving multiple transmissions from Earth, said Maria Santos. Military command, news agencies, government officials, Everyone wants to talk to us. Put Admiral Blake through first. The screen showed Admiral William. Blake in his office. Behind him, Jake could see other military officials and what looked like government representatives. Captain Morrison, good to see you made it home safely. Your reports have caused quite a stir. The President wants to meet with you immediately. Yes, sir. We have a lot to discuss. That's an understatement. Captain, we've been monitoring space. Around Earth, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the outer solar system. Jake felt his stomach tighten. What kind of readings? Unknown energy signatures moving in our direction. Based on your reports about these devourers, we think they might be scouts. Alex Rodriguez checked his instruments. Admiral, how long? Before these energy signatures reach Earth. At current speed, about 4 months, maybe less. Lisa Grant stepped forward. Admiral, we need to speak with world leaders immediately. All of them. This affects every nation on Earth. Agreed. The President has called an emergency session of the United Nations. You'll present your findings to the entire World Assembly. 2 hours later, Jake stood in the United Nations building in New York. The assembly hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Security was tight. News crews waited outside. President Claire Adams introduced Jake to the assembly. She was a strong woman in her 50s who had led the country through several crises. But Jake could see worry in her eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Morrison has returned from humanity's first contact with alien life. What he has to tell us will change everything. Jake walked to the podium. He looked out at hundreds of faces representing billions of people. The weight of responsibility was crushing. 3 weeks ago, my crew and I made contact with an alien species called the Zelani. What we learned from them will shock you. 50,000 years ago, humanity fought in a galactic war. We helped save the galaxy from creatures called the Devourers. But the cost was terrible. Human civilization was destroyed, and we forgot our own history. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some representatives looked skeptical. Others looked frightened. The Devourers were imprisoned in another dimension. But now that prison is failing, they are escaping. And they remember that humanity is their greatest enemy. Jake activated a holographic projector. Images from the alien facility appeared above. The assembly. They showed the memories of the ancient war. These are the memories of our ancestors. They sacrificed everything to save the galaxy. Now we must make the same choice. He showed them the star map with the red dots marking destroyed worlds. 12 worlds have been consumed in the past month. The rate is increasing. If we do nothing, every inhabited world in the galaxy will be destroyed within a year. The assembly erupted in voices. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of languages. President Adams called for order. The representative from China stood up. Captain Morrison, you ask us to believe in alien beings and ancient wars. Where is your proof? Jake had expected this question. Dr. Grant showed him the tests. Lisa stepped forward and activated another hologram. It showed the test results from the alien facility. We tested every human crew member for resistance to Devourer influence. Every single person was immune. But more than that, human presence actually weakens the Devourers. We are not just resistant to them, we are weapons against them. The representative from Russia spoke next. Even if this is true, what do you expect us to do? Fight alien monsters? Yes, Jake said simply. Because if we don't fight, everyone dies. General Paul Martinez, the head of Earth's defense forces, stood up. Captain, what exactly are you asking from us? Jake took a deep breath. We need 10,000 volunteers to travel to the center of the galaxy. They will strengthen the dimensional prison that holds the Devourers, but they can never come home. The seal requires constant maintenance. The assembly fell silent. Jake continued, we also need to prepare Earth's defenses. Devourer forces are heading toward our solar system. They will arrive in about 4 months. We need to be ready to fight. President Adams stepped forward. Captain, you're asking us to send 10,000 people to their guests and prepare for an alien invasion. This is the most extraordinary request in human history. Yes, ma'am. But it's also the most important decision humanity has ever made. The representative from the United Kingdom stood up. Captain Morrison, how do we know these aliens are telling the truth? How do we know this isn't some elaborate trick? Before Jake could answer, alarm sirens began blaring throughout the building. Security officers rushed into the assembly hall. General Martinez was speaking urgently into his radio. Mr. President, we have a situation. Our deep space monitoring stations are detecting massive energy disturbances in the outer solar system. What kind of disturbances? President Adams asked. Unknown ships. Hundreds of them. They just appeared out of nowhere. Jake felt his blood turn cold. General, are they moving toward Earth? Yes. And Captain, these energy signatures match the readings from your report about Devourer vessels. The assembly erupted in panic. Representatives shouted and pointed at each other. Some called for evacuation. Others demanded military action. Order! President Adams shouted. Everyone remain calm. Jake ran to the communications panel. I need to contact Elder Corvash immediately. Within minutes, the alien appeared on the mirror. Main screen. Behind him, Jake could see alien technicians working frantically. Captain Morrison, we detected the arrival of Devourer forces in your system. They are moving faster than we expected. How many ships? Jake asked. Our sensors show approximately 300 vessels. They are not the main force, but they are significant. General Martinez stepped forward. How long before they reach? Earth? At current speed, approximately 72 hours. The assembly fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen. Elder Corvash, President Adams said, this is President Adams of Earth. Can your forces help us defend our world? Madam President, we have a fleet en route to your system. But they will not arrive for another week. You must hold out until... Then, how are we supposed to fight alien technology with our primitive weapons? General Martinez asked. Elder Corvash looked grim. Your weapons may be more effective than you think. The Devourers have not fought humans for 50,000 years. They may have forgotten how dangerous you can be. Jake turned to the assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, we no longer have the luxury of debate. Enemy forces will be here in 3 days. We need to decide right now. Do we fight or do we surrender? The representative from Japan stood up. Captain Morrison, if we fight and lose, what happens to Earth? If we lose, Earth becomes a dead world. Every person on the planet will be consumed or corrupted. And if we fight and win? If we win this battle, we buy time to organize the mission to the Galactic Center. We save not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. President Adams looked around the assembly. All in favor of fighting? Slowly, hands began to rise. First one, then 10, then hundreds. Within minutes, nearly every representative had voted to fight. The motion passes, President Adams announced. Earth will defend itself. Elder Corvash nodded approvingly. Your ancestors would be proud. But remember, this is just the beginning. After this battle, you still need to send volunteers to the Galactic Center. We understand, Jake said. But first, we survived the next 3 days. General Martinez activated his communicator. All military forces worldwide, this is General Martinez. We are now at the highest state of alert. Prepare for orbital defense. This is not a drill. Jake looked around at the faces in the assembly. 3 days ago, these people had been worried about trade disputes and territorial conflicts. Now they were preparing to fight for the survival of their species. Captain Morrison, President Adams said, what do you recommend for our defense? Madam President, we need to evacuate major population centers. Move people underground or to rural areas. The Devourers feed on large concentrations of life force. What about our military strategy? Jake thought about the memories he had seen. Hit and run tactics. don't let them surround us. And whatever happens, don't let them land on the surface. Once they establish a foothold, they'll be almost impossible to remove. Dr. Amanda Foster, the president's science advisor, stepped forward. Captain, is there anything else we should know about fighting these creatures? Yes, they can corrupt our people and turn them against us. If any human begins acting strangely after exposure to the Devourers, they may be compromised. Lisa added, but remember, they cannot corrupt us easily. Our resistance is strong. Just being near humans weakens them. Elder Corvash spoke from the screen. Captain Morrison, we are transmitting technical data about Devourer weaknesses to your military. Use this information to prepare your defenses. Thank you, Elder Corvash. Good luck, Captain. The fate of the galaxy rests with humanity once again. The New Horizon hung in space near the alien facility. Jake Morrison sat in his quarters staring at a picture of his family. His wife Sarah smiled back at him from the photo. His children looked so young and innocent. They had no idea what was coming. A soft knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Come in. Lisa Grant entered. She looked tired. None of them had slept well since viewing the memories of their ancestors. Captain, you need to see something. Elder Corvash has new information about the seal. Jake followed Lisa to the ship's meeting room. Alex Rodriguez was already there, along with the rest of the senior crew. Elder Corvash appeared on the main screen, but he was not alone. Several other aliens stood behind him. Captain Morrison, I must show you something disturbing. The dimensional prison is failing faster than we thought. The screen changed to show a star map of the galaxy. Several areas were marked in red. These are the worlds that have gone dark in the past month, Elder Corvash explained. As you can see, the pattern is spreading. Jake counted the red dots. 12 worlds in 1 month. You said only 3 have been attacked. That was last week. The rate of escape is increasing. Each time a devourer breaks free, it weakens the seal further. An alien that looked like a tree made of crystal stepped forward. I am botanist Zeltar. I study the prison dimensions. The seal your ancestors created was perfect, but nothing lasts forever. How long do we have? Alex asked. At the current rate of decay, the seal will completely fail in 6 months. Maybe. Less. Lisa leaned forward. What happens when it fails completely? Every devourer that was in prison will escape at once. Billions of them. They will spread across the galaxy like a plague. Jake felt his stomach drop. How many worlds are in the galaxy? Approximately 200 billion inhabited worlds. If the seal fails completely, all of them will be consumed within a year. The room was silent. Jake tried to imagine 200 billion worlds dying. It was too big to understand. There must be something we can do, Lisa said. Some way to strengthen the seal, Elder Corvash nodded. We have tried everything. For 50,000 years, we have sent energy to the prison. We have reinforced it with new technology. But the seal was designed to be maintained by humans. Only human life force can truly strengthen it. But all the humans who created it are dead, Alex said. Yes, but their descendants are not. Modern. Humans carry the same genetic markers. You have the same resistance to devour influence. In theory, you could strengthen the seal. Jake stood up. In theory, we are not certain modern humans have the same abilities as your ancestors. The genetic markers are there, but they may be dormant. We need to test them. Lisa pulled out her tablet. What kind of tests? We need to expose modern humans to devour essence. If you can resist corruption, then you can fight them. If you cannot, Elder Corvash's voice trailed off. If we cannot, then we become their slaves, Jake finished. Yes, Jake looked around. The room had his crew. They were all scared, but they were also determined. When do we start? Now. We have prepared a testing chamber on the facility. But, Captain, I must warn you. Even if you have the resistance, the test will be painful. The Devourers will try to break your mind. How many of us need to be tested? All of you. We need to know if the resistance is common among modern humans, or if only some have it. An hour later, Jake stood outside the testing chamber. Through the thick glass window, he could see a chair surrounded by machines. In the center of the room was a small container that seemed to absorb light around it. That container holds Devour Essence, Elder Corvash explained. Just a tiny amount, but it is enough to test your resistance. Dr. Martinez, one of the alien scientists, checked his instruments. The containment field is stable. We can release the essence whenever you are ready. Jake looked at his crew. Who goes first? I will, Lisa said. I'm the scientist. I need to understand what we're dealing with. She entered the chamber and sat in the chair. The aliens activated the containment field around her. She was now sealed inside with the Devour Essence. Release it, Lisa said through the communication system. Dr. Martinez pressed a button. The container opened, and darkness flowed out. It moved like liquid smoke, reaching toward Lisa. Jake watched in horror as the darkness approached her. It seemed to whisper things he could not hear. Lisa's face showed pain, but she did not scream. The darkness touched her arm. Where it made contact, her skin began to turn black. But then something amazing happened. The blackness stopped spreading. It began to retreat. It can't get in, Lisa said through gritted teeth. It's trying, but it can't control me. The darkness pulled back and circled around her like a frustrated animal. It tried different approaches, but each time it was repelled. Amazing, Dr. Martinez said. The resistance is complete. The essence cannot penetrate her mind at all. After 5 minutes, the test ended. The darkness was contained again, and Lisa was released from the chamber. She looked exhausted but triumphant. I could feel it trying to get inside my thoughts, she said, but it was like trying to push through a wall. The wall was always there. Alex went next. His test was the same. The darkness could not control him. Then Maria Santos, the communications officer. Then the engineer, Pete Wilson. One by one, every human crew member was tested. Every single one had the resistance. Incredible, Elder Corvash said. Modern humans have retained the immunity. This is better than we hoped. Jake felt relief wash over him. So we can fight them. Yes, but Captain, there is something else. Something we discovered during the tests. What? Dr. Martinez showed him readings from the tests. The resistance is not just passive. When humans are exposed to Devour Essence, they seem to weaken it. Each test made the essence smaller and less powerful. Lisa looked at the readings. We don't just resist them. We hurt them by existing near them. Exactly. This is why your ancestors were so effective in the war. They were not just immune to corruption. They were weapons against the Devourers. Jake thought about the implications. How many humans will we need to strengthen the seal? According to our calculations, about 10,000 humans working together could reinforce the prison indefinitely. But Captain, there is a problem. What problem? The seal is located at the center of the galaxy. It is a journey of 6 months, even with our fastest ships. And the area around the seal is swarming with escaped Devourers. Alex studied the star map. So we need to fight our way through enemy territory to reach the prison. Yes, and once there, the humans would need to stay permanently. The seal requires constant maintenance. They could never return home. Jake sat down heavily. We're asking people to sacrifice their lives. Yes, just as your ancestors did. The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone thought about the weight of the decision. There's another problem, Lisa said quietly. 10,000 people. That's a lot of volunteers to find. Actually, there may be a bigger problem, Dr. Martinez said. Our tests show that the seal's failure is accelerating. We may not have 6 months to get to the center of the galaxy. How long do we have? Jake asked. 3 months, maybe less. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the alien ships waiting in formation. So many species depending on humanity once again. We need to return to Earth immediately, he said. We need to tell our people what's happening. And we need to find 10,000 volunteers willing to die to save the galaxy. Captain, Elder, Corvash said, there is one more thing. The escaped devourers are not just wandering randomly. They are organized. They remember the war. They remember humanity. What are you saying? I'm saying they know humans are their greatest enemy. They will try to attack Earth before we can organize a defense. They will try to destroy humanity before you can reach the seal. Jake felt cold fear run through him. How long before they reach Earth? Our scouts report devourer forces moving toward your solar system. They will arrive in approximately 4 months. Alex looked at the timeline. So we have 3 months to get volunteers to the Galactic Center, and 4 months before Earth is attacked. Yes, and Captain, if Earth falls, if humanity is destroyed, then the seal will fail completely. The devourers will have won. Jake looked around at his crew. They all understood the situation. Humanity had to fight on 2 fronts. Some humans had to go to the Galactic Center to maintain the seal. Others had to stay and defend Earth. Set course for Earth, Jake said. Maximum speed. Captain, Elder Corvash said, we will provide you with escort ships. And we will begin moving our own fleets toward Earth. But ultimately, this fight belongs to humanity. I understand. Jake paused. Elder Corvash, do you think we can win? The alien was quiet for a long moment. 50,000 years ago, I thought humanity was finished. Your species was scattered and broken, but you survived. You rebuilt. You reached the stars again. If any species can defeat the devourers twice, it is humanity. The screen went dark. Jake turned to his crew. Well, he said, I guess it's time to save the galaxy again. The alien facility was unlike anything Jake Morrison had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. The floor was smooth as glass, but felt warm under his feet. He walked beside Elder Corvash through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. This facility was built 50,000 years ago, Elder Corvash explained. It was designed by human and alien scientists working together. Much of the technology here was created by your ancestors. Lisa Grant looked around in wonder. It's beautiful. But why does it feel so sad? Because this is where we studied the devourers. This is where we learned how to fight them. Many brave souls died in these halls. They entered a large chamber filled with strange machines. In the center was a chair that looked like it was made of the same crystal as the walls. Wires and tubes connected it to computers that hummed softly. This is the memory viewer, Elder Corvash said. It can show you the actual memories of those who fought in the war. You will see what your ancestors saw. You will experience what they experienced. Alex Rodriguez stepped closer to the chair. Is it safe? For humans, yes. Your minds are different from ours. You can view these memories without being damaged by them. Other species cannot. Jake looked at the chair. It seemed to call to him somehow. What will we see? You will see the war as it really was. You will understand why the quarantine was necessary. And you will learn why humanity is so important to the galaxy. Elder Corvash gestured to several alien technicians. They began working on the machines around the chair. Lights began to blink. Faster. Who goes first? Jake asked. I will, Lisa said. I'm the scientist. I need to understand how the devourers work. She sat in the chair. The alien technicians placed a crystal headband on her forehead. Immediately, her eyes closed, and she became very still. What is she seeing? Jake asked. The memories of Dr. Ryan Cooper. He was one of your ancestor scientists. He helped develop the weapons that could hurt the devourers. On screens around the room, Jake could see what Lisa was experiencing. He saw a human man in a white coat standing in a laboratory. The man looked terrified but determined. In the memory, Dr. Cooper was. working on something that looked like a gun made of light. Around him, other scientists, both human and alien, worked frantically. Through the laboratory windows, Jake could see a battle raging in space. The Devourers have taken the Centauri system, Dr. Cooper was saying in the memory. We have maybe. 3 days before they reach Earth, an alien scientist that looked like a giant insect spoke up. The quantum disruptor is ready for testing, but we need a volunteer. I'll test it, Dr. Cooper said without hesitation. The memory showed Dr. Cooper taking the weapon and walking to a sealed chamber. Inside the chamber was a small piece of darkness that seemed to move and ride. Even watching the memory, Jake felt afraid of it. That is Devourer essence, Elder Corvash explained. Just a tiny piece. But it is still deadly to most species. Dr. Cooper entered the chamber. The darkness immediately moved toward him. Jake watched in horror as the darkness tried to enter Dr. Cooper's mind. He could see the man's face twist in pain. But then something amazing happened. The darkness recoiled. It could not enter Dr. Cooper's mind. The human scientist raised his weapon and fired. The beam of light struck the darkness, and it dissolved. It works, Dr. Cooper shouted. The quantum disruptor works on humans. The memory ended. Lisa opened her eyes and looked around. She was crying. I felt it, she said. I felt the thing trying to get into my mind. It was like ice and fire at the same time. But it couldn't get in. Jake helped Lisa out of the chair. What else did you see? I saw how brave they were. Dr. Cooper knew he might die, but he'd get it. Anyway, he did it to save everyone. Elder Corvash nodded. Your ancestors were the bravest beings the galaxy has ever known. But you have only seen the beginning. The war lasted much longer. Alex stepped forward. I want to see a battle. I want to see how they fought. He sat in the chair, and the technicians placed a headband on him. This time, the screen showed a different memory. A human woman in military uniform stood on the bridge of a warship. That is General Kate Phillips, Elder Corvash said. She was one of your greatest military leaders. In the memory, General Phillips was commanding a fleet of human and alien ships. They were fighting against something that looked like a black cloud filled with lightning. All ships, maintain formation, General Phillips commanded. Remember, the Devourers can take control of our alien allies. Watch for ships that turn against us. Jake watched as the battle unfolded. The human ships moved in perfect coordination. Their weapons fired beams of light that seemed to hurt the shadow creatures. But the Devourers were fighting back. The black cloud suddenly rushed forward. It engulfed several alien ships. Jake watched in horror as those ships immediately turned and began attacking their own allies. Target the corrupted ships, General Phillips ordered. Don't hesitate. Those crews are already lost. Jake saw the pain in her eyes as she gave the order. These were her allies, her friends. But she knew they were no longer themselves. The human ships fired on the corrupted vessels. The alien ships exploded in flashes of light. Each explosion seemed to weaken the shadow creatures. Why does destroying the corrupted ships hurt the Devourers? Jake asked. Because the Devourers feed on the life force of those they control. When the host dies, they lose that energy. The battle in the memory continued. More and more alien ships were being corrupted. Soon only the human ships remained. This is General Phillips to all human vessels, the woman said. We are alone now, but we have something they don't. We have each other, and we have the will to fight. The human ships formed a circle and began firing in all directions. The shadow creatures swarmed around them but could not penetrate there. Defenses dot, then something unexpected happened. The shadow creatures began to retreat. They're running, someone shouted in the memory. No, General Phillips said quietly. They're regrouping. This was just a test. They wanted to see how we fight. The memory ended. Alex opened his eyes and looked shaken. They were so outnumbered, he said. But they never gave up. Jake sat in the chair next. I want to see the end. I want to see what happened to Helen Brooks. The technicians activated the machine. This time the memory was different. Jake found himself in the mind of Helen Brooks herself. He was standing on the bridge of a massive space station. Through the station's windows, Jake could see the center of the galaxy. It was beautiful and terrible. Billions of stars swirled in patterns of light, but darkness was spreading between them. The Devourers have taken the core worlds, Helen Brooks was saying. If they reach the galactic center, they will have unlimited power. We have to stop them here. Around her, both human and alien officers worked frantically. But Jake could feel Helen's thoughts. She already knew what had to be done. Commander Brooks, an alien officer said, the dimensional gateway is ready, but someone needs to stay behind to maintain the seal. I know, Helen said. I've already made my choice. Jake felt her sadness, but also her determination. She was not afraid to die. She was afraid of failing. All human ships, this is Commander Brooks. We are going to create a dimensional prison. The Devourers will be trapped forever. But we cannot leave the prison unguarded. Jake felt the weight of her decision. She was asking her people to sacrifice themselves for the galaxy. I understand if you want to leave, she continued. You have families. You have lives to live. But if we don't stop them here, there will be no families left to save. The response came immediately. Every human ship in the fleet volunteered to stay. Jake watched through Helen's eyes as the plan was executed. The human ships formed the perfect circle around the dimensional gateway. Their weapons fired in unison, creating a tier in space itself. The Devourers were pulled into the tier. They fought against it, but the combined will of 500,000 humans was too strong. The shadow creatures disappeared into the other dimension dot, but maintaining the seal required constant energy. The human ships had to keep firing forever. It's working, Helen said. The seal is holding. But Jake could feel her strength fading. All around him, the other humans were dying from the effort. They were pouring their life force into the seal. Tell our families we saved them, Helen said. Tell them we were proud to serve. The memory ended with Helen Brooks closing her eyes for the last time. Jake opened his own eyes and found himself crying. Now you understand, Elder Corvash said. Gently, your ancestors gave everything to save the galaxy. They are heroes beyond measure, Jake wiped his eyes. And now the seal is breaking. Yes, after 50,000 years, it is finally failing. The Devourers are beginning to escape. Lisa stood up. Then we need to be ready. We need to learn everything our ancestors knew. That is why you are here, Elder Corvash said. That is why the quarantine must end. The galaxy needs humanity again. Jake looked at his crew. They all looked different now. They had seen the truth. They had felt the weight of their heritage. What do we do now? Alex asked. Now, Jake said, we go back to Earth. We tell our people what we've learned. And we prepare for war. Elder Corvash nodded. The Devourers are coming. But this time, humanity will be ready.